Proving you were harassed can be difficult, especially when there are no witnesses present. In my opinion, even if you think your report of harassment will have no evidence, you should report anyway. It is in your best interest to report just because you have a chance of reaching a resolution in that way. In a couple of the previous scenarios I described, there were witnesses present, but I never leveraged those witnesses when navigating those situations. This scenario, scenario 4, is a story of a time when I did use a witness to reach justice, and this witness was actually being harassed along with me. I'm really excited to share this story with you because it just shows that when we work together to support one another in making sure that we all feel safe and comfortable in our work environment, everyone benefits. This was also the first time that someone validated that I was being harassed in graduate school and that my reaction to the harassment was not unfounded or irrational. It was empowering. This was also the first time that I felt like someone validated that I was being harassed in graduate school. And the fact that she supported me really validated that emotions and that I wasn't acting irrationally and my behavior wasn't unfounded for being harassed. It was so empowering. Scenario 4, using a witness to report harassment. This scenario describes an incident in which having a witness was crucial to reaching justice because when I first reported it, I wasn't taken seriously. I discuss how I navigated the harassment, how the witness supported me, and underscore the importance of finding allies and supporters in toxic work environments. When I was in graduate school, I founded a chapter of the Nuclear Policy Working Group, and as the ambassador, I coordinated meetings. Our room was wonderful. It was located in the engineering department, and so every week I had to go up to the office of the Dean of Engineering and retrieve the key, specifically from a staff member in that office. The first time I retrieved the key, I could tell that this staff member did not offer much respect to students. She seemed condescending when she would ask that I return the key the next school day. Then one week I got sick and I couldn't return the key the next day. After that, in subsequent weeks, she would taunt me every time I went to retrieve the key. She would tell me to return the key the next day as if I was a child. It felt so condescending and disrespectful. Then one week I had a guest speaker come and speak at a meeting. She was a scientist at a national lab. Since I showed her around campus, I took her with me to go get the key from the office of the dean. While I was retrieving the key from the office of the dean, the staff member turned to my guest speaker, who I'll call Dr. S, and said to her, "Now don't forget to tell her to return the key, little lady." Dr. S looked livid, offended, and surprised. I felt horrible that my guest speaker was being treated this way now. The staff member obviously had no idea who she was talking to. But even if I brought up another student with me, she still shouldn't treat someone with such disrespect. Dr. S muttered something in reply about not being a student, but in the moment we were just so taken aback we left quietly with the key. In the elevator down to the meeting room, I apologized to Dr. S for her behavior, and Dr. S replied that sexism was everywhere. Dr. S asked if this staff member always treated me that way, and I said yes. While Dr. S was offended, she didn't hold it against me. Instead, she took my side and validated that this staff member was harassing me. Now, I want to go quickly through the resilience mindset and the reporting framework before I tell you what happened in real life. Step 1, applying the resilience mindset. After the first time the staff member harassed me, before Dr. S came, I should have spoken up and addressed the harassment. Based on the 5 truths of the resilience mindset, number 1, she was making me feel unappreciated and unsafe in the office of the Dean of Engineering. Number 2, I had a right to feel safe in my university. Number 3, I had no control over the staff member's actions. No matter how nice I was to her, she was not necessarily going to stop harassing me. Number 4, everything is a practice. In the beginning, I should have reported the harassment, even if they may not have taken me seriously, because of number 1 and number 2 of the resilience mindset. Number 5, the situation is not resolved until I feel safe and comfortable in my university. Even though this harassment was not the largest source of harassment in my life at the time, unfortunately, I still should have said something because it was affecting my health and my well-being. Having to go to this office every week and retrieve this key did add stress to my life. Based on all of this, I should have reported it, stood up for myself, from the first time this staff member harassed me. But it's okay that I didn't. There's no one right way to navigate harassment. Now that the staff member had harassed my guest speaker by calling her little lady, I had not only evidence in the form of a witness, but it also was under a protected category under Title IX, which made me able to report the harassment and feel like I may be able to reach justice this time. Now that the staff member had harassed a guest speaker using the phrase little lady, I definitely had more reason and more evidence to report harassment. So now let's get into the reporting framework to explain how I'll navigate that. Step 2, applying the reporting framework. Number 1, I wasn't very familiar with my harasser. She didn't really have any power over the completion of my PhD, my career, or my funding as a graduate student. We knew each other on a first name basis, and that was it. Number 2, before she harassed Dr. S, I had no evidence of the harassment. Dr. S being present to it, witnessing it, and being a victim of the harassment changed everything though. It gave me all the evidence I needed, and especially since Dr. S was a guest speaker, a scientist from a national lab, it carried more weight than just me as a graduate student reporting, which is an unfortunate truth in academia. In general, in academia, people from outside the university, especially if they have a title of scientist or something, carry more respect than graduate students who are in that university program. I frankly really don't like how graduate students are infantilized in academia, especially because I think it exacerbates health issues in the graduate student population. In this situation, the person I would report harassment to would either be the Dean of Engineering, the staff member's boss, or the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity. I was not really familiar with the Dean of Engineering, but I was comfortable reporting it through him and his office. Number 4, while the harassment towards me made me feel frustrated and powerless, the harassment towards Dr. S made me feel guilty and angry. I felt like I led her into a harassment trap, but I have to remember that it's not in my control that this staff member harassed her. While I had a strong emotional response, it didn't affect me too much. I felt like I could resolve the issue without bringing strong emotions into the mix. Based on the resilience mindset and the reporting framework, I could have reported the harassment before or after Dr. S came into the office and was harassed. I could have reported the harassment to the Dean of Engineering or to the Office of Equal Opportunity and Diversity. After Dr. S was harassed, though, I then had a witness who I knew would support me if I went and reported it because of our conversation in the elevator. She validated that we were being harassed by the staff member. In real life, after Dr. S left, I decided to take action. At the time, I reported only because I felt like I couldn't bring a guest or a speaker to the Office of the Dean of Engineering for fear that they would be harassed. Before, I had not taken action because I didn't have enough emotional energy to spend in reporting it. The harassment I faced in my lab was much worse, in my opinion, than the harassment I faced from the staff member. I was picking my battles. However, now it wasn't just about me, it was affecting my guests. I reported it by sending an email to the Dean of Engineering saying what happened. Now I'm going to read you the letter I wrote to the Dean of Engineering because I want to show you what it sounds like to write a report of harassment in this way. I said, "Dear Dean, I'm a doctoral student in this engineering department who runs 2 organizations at UC Irvine, one of them being Nuclear Policy Working Group. I have a concern regarding your office manager. For the past quarter, I have used this conference room for weekly meetings, and because of this, I've become acquainted with your office manager. Today, Dr. S, an expert on arms control at Sandia National Lab, guest spoke at our Nuclear Policy Working Group meeting. She accompanied me when retrieving the key from your office manager in your office. Your office manager condescendingly lectured both Dr. S and I about returning the key and teased Dr. S, calling her little lady. Dr. S was offended by the office manager's remark and stated that she was not a student, and we exited the office. After leaving your office, I apologized to Dr. S, who commented that I should not have to deal with this office manager's disrespectful attitude every week when I retrieve the key. I am utterly embarrassed regarding this office manager's unprofessional behavior and comments toward Dr. S, and felt the need to bring this to your attention. It was completely disrespectful, and because of this, I will never bring a guest to your office for fear that this would happen again. This incident reflects poorly on the School of Engineering and the university. Thank you for taking this into account. Sincerely, Jill. Soon after that, I got a reply from the dean saying, Jill, thanks for your feedback. Another office manager and I will look into this. Warmest regards. Later, I got a reply from one of the office staff. It read, Dear Jill, the dean forwarded your email to me. I'm very sorry to hear that you felt like our office didn't live up to its standards yesterday. I would like to assure you that we understand that the front desk and the dean's office are the face of the School of Engineering and that we take pride in representing the school in a professional and competent manner. I addressed the issue with the office staff today, and it is my understanding that you and her have interacted before and, as you mentioned, have become acquainted. Of course, we always want you to feel comfortable bringing guests to the dean's office, knowing that they are greeted in a polite and professional way. I would like to give you more background information on the room. The use of this room has increased a lot, and in particular this quarter, we have had numerous issues with the usage of the room, ranging from leaving the space a mess to not returning the keys in a timely manner. I have instructed this office manager to be more strict about explaining the rules for using the room because there are many instances in which we weren't able to check the room due to back-to-back meetings or meetings outside of our office hours. In the end, we are responsible for providing the room clean, readily set up for the next meeting, even if we don't get a chance to check it in between meetings. Please feel free to talk to the staff member or me directly if you have any concerns you would like to discuss in person. Thank you very much and have a great weekend. The reply I got back was that the staff member had been talked to and it was a misunderstanding, that she may not have been as formal as she needed to be. I couldn't believe it. They weren't taking my complaint seriously or acknowledging the real issue. The next time I went to the office, it got really weird. I felt like the staff member was treating me like she was so smug, like she had won. Dr. S emailed me after the event to follow up and to say that she personally was reaching out to the office of the Dean of Engineering. Her email said, Hi Jill, thank you once again for hosting my talk. I wanted to reach out and let you know that I am going to contact the Dean of Engineering about the harassment you and I both faced in the Dean's office. I've thought a lot about it over the weekend and I'm very upset how we were both treated. And I realized that I can and should say something and that the reality is I have nothing to lose. Furthermore, as an external speaker, I have some power in the situation, something that the assistant did not realize when she harassed us. And I want to use it. In doing this, I was wondering, you know the name of the woman who was rude to me and called me little lady. This will help me moving forward. Take care. I was so happy that Dr. S sent this email to me. It really felt like for the first time in a long time that somebody was supporting me and they were validating I was facing harassment. I wasn't crazy for feeling like someone was harassing me. It seriously meant the world. I replied thanking her for taking the time to address this issue and emailed her the correspondence I had sent the dean's office. She replied, You go! I'm so glad you spoke up. Please send me your email exchange. I also called the professor who advises the group and let him know what happened and what my actions will be. I will write today or tomorrow depending on my schedule. If I do not get an appropriate reaction from the dean, which it seems like his office has already failed in this respect, I am more than happy to bring it to the provost. I'm not sure the staff member knew who she was talking with. Just reading that today makes me feel so happy. From that point forward, whenever I entered the dean's office, the staff member would hardly utter a word when she handed me the key. The office had definitely received the email from Dr. S. It was awkward, but I definitely preferred it to the harassment. I would just thank her politely when I picked up the key and head to the meeting, not worrying about the harassment from her. While I felt bad that this staff member harassed Dr. S, I feel like I discovered a brilliant tactic to protect myself against harassment. If you bring someone who is supportive of you around the harasser and they harass you, you now have a witness you can use if you want to pursue legal action against the harassment. In my experience, being a graduate student felt very dehumanizing because of the way that we were treated by staff and faculty. We may be seen as brilliant adults from the outside world because we're curing cancer and discovering dark matter, but within our own academic system, we're seen as like children and not taken seriously or respected, especially when it comes to giving input for university operations or even just retrieving a key for a meeting room. We're seen as simple, lowly students who don't deserve respect or a voice. The power structures at universities are ever present and seem to undermine student success, which is ironic. I feel like every time I share this story, I feel pretty emotional about this event. At the time in graduate school, when I shared that I thought I was being harassed, people would tell me that my perception of the situation was wrong, or that I should just brush it off and not worry about it. Like, it wasn't a big deal. Because this was a moment when somebody actually acknowledged that I was being harassed and didn't minimize the issue or tell me to brush it off, but instead said, "You go," when I addressed the issue and reported it, I finally felt sane and that my response, my reaction to the harassment was appropriate. She validated my perspective and emotion around the experience. Having someone do this at a time when I was being gaslit by others in my work environment was like seeing a light in the dark. I realized that I did in fact have a reason to feel angry, frustrated, and powerless at the harassment I faced. It was a big deal, and it wasn't my fault. Through this experience, I learned that as a student, you can't rely solely on your university to support you in your journey. While you can find supporters to help you reach your academic goals, you will also find people who will undermine your success. Academia is intrinsically a hierarchy, and everyone in this structure has their own priorities. Undergraduate and graduate students typically fall at the bottom of this hierarchy and lack power. It can be a very dehumanizing experience to pursue justice when you're being harassed or experiencing bias, and so it's very important to focus and center your own self-care and your own health. You need to prioritize your own well-being. This is why it's so important to learn your workplace protections as well as self-care and emotional intelligence, like we covered in previous chapters. Emotional intelligence and self-care are key when navigating difficult workplace situations that involve harassment.